Can the server admin see what I copy via SCP? Say I am connecting to a server via SCP and copying some files from the remote server to my home computer. Can the server admins tell that I have copied something, see what was copied, or know who copied it?
A server fault question is almost identical to this. Hopefully you checked before posting your question, but yours is a little different, so I will answer here. The short answer is that if anyone has access and permissions to an endpoint, the system you are spying from or spying to, they can see what happens. If they do not have access to either endpoint, they likely won't have access to or be able to decipher what you're doing, apart from potentially knowing the application by protocol numbers. The answer is ultimately very dependent on your infrastructure. Most likely though, as long as there isn't intense monitoring and SCP isn't considered a threat in the company, which will throw up red flags, your traffic will go by unnoticed. This is especially true for smaller companies. As Simon Reiter mentioned, if someone can execute a command on your system, e.a. admin or others, they can check your process list and see the command line, scp-arg/filepath/. However, this requires that they be either logging all process activity or checking it at the time you are transferring. Additionally, if you are doing it from your own system at work to another system, say at home or elsewhere, they won't necessarily have that visibility. Additionally, as Alex.Forensic mentioned, it is also possible to log all system calls, including file open and read calls, so even if your copying program, SCP, SFTP, etc., does not log or leak anything, command line arguments, it is still possible to figure out what files were read or written. See the Linux audit system.
Not just the admin. For testing, I just copied /bin from my server to a temporary directory on my laptop. PS on the server shows. This information is generally accessible to all users.
SCP works with the help of code running on the server, SSHD, and SCP itself. That server code is in theory completely in the control of the server admin, and the version of SCP running on the server to write the file down the connection to you is separate from the version of SCP running on your machine to issue the request. An administrator of the server could, just for an example, replace SCP on the server with a version that logs all requests, rather like a web server can write logs. Then they could see from those logs exactly what you copied. Whether they have the expertise and the motivation to actually do this is less definite, but if they want to, then in principle there's nothing to stop them. I think these questions are companions to yours, this URL. Although I don't know all the details, it seems that straight out of the box SCP and SSHD don't have options to log what you're asking about. So perhaps more is required than simple configuration, but you can't get away from the fact that admins control the server.
Anything that passes unencrypted through the memory of a computer can be read or changed by a sufficiently privileged user on that machine. The names of running processes and the command line used to start them are accessible to any logged-on user on Linux. This is not the case on Windows, for the curious. Therefore, the admin or anybody else who happens to be around could see which files you copied. Additionally, it's entirely possible for the administrator to have set up some sort of file access logging, or to have replaced /jiggled the SCP program on one end to do extra logging. SCP just protects you from network sniffers. Obviously, both ends have to know the decrypted data, so there's the opportunity for a sophisticated admin on either of the endpoints to suck the data out of SCP's memory. Other solutions, Even those that don't involve command lines are also open to that. Both ends of SFTP know what's going on, so it's possible to determine by a memory inspection what SFTP is thinking/transferring.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.